In today's video, we're going to take something boring like a door handle and turn it into a complex biometric security lock for my study door. And I hope you appreciate those establishing shots, because I'm going to break the fourth wall here. I have to go put the door handle back on because the fingerprint scanner thing is already on the door, but I have to take it all off to make establishing shots, so it makes a nice video for you guys. So you're welcome. Now, before we go any further, I'm just going to tell you what's going to be in this video. There's going to be a little bit about the coding, a little bit about the components, a little bit on 3D modeling using Fusion 360, and then obviously the final wiring and the components all working together. On the topic of the components, there's going to be a little bit extra on this, which is a JM201, which is a fingerprint scanner readily available at JCAR, which is an electronic outlet here in Australia, or in WA anyway. A lot of the documentation and videos online don't show you how to use a JM201, and when you wire it up like that, like they say in those videos, it doesn't work. I did that. I put it 5 volts into it. I thought I broke it looking at the actual correct documentation, so I went to JCAR and bought another one, but the original one did work. It's just that the code doesn't let it work. Well, as you can see, it's future me, editor me here. I was about to say the most moronic thing you've ever heard in your life. I was going to say that the code doesn't work with the fingerprint scanner. Obviously, the code does work, so I just want to correct that. What I meant to say is that the wiring that they suggest in those online resources doesn't work with the JM201, so you need to look at the resource that I'll show you a bit later in this video. Thanks. Neanderthal out. Now, I thought a good place to start would be the 3D models, because then we have places to put the components into and the rest of the video flows nicely. So the first component is the JM201 fingerprint holder. This will hold the fingerprint sensor to the front panel using screws, and will hold it in place so it doesn't go anywhere. In the model, you can see that there's little ridges. These are also present in the JM201 there. As you can see, they've got like the little ridges in it. That stops it from sliding into the actual plate itself when it's all put together. The second component I'm going to show you is the front panel. As you can see, the JM201 holder model is sitting on top of it now, with screws for M3 screws to go through, screwing the holder onto the front plate. The hole down the bottom is for an 11 kilogram servo. As you can see, it's got the little indents between the two screw holes there. That's what those little indents in the model are for. That stops it rotating around, because it does actually require quite a bit of force to spin the internal mechanism of a door handle. The next component is the back plate. This just holds the button that you will press to get out of the room once you're in, and it will hold a little buzzer so you can hear that the circuit is actually doing what it's meant to. On top of that is the back cover. This makes it nice and neat and not look like a bomb every time someone tries to exit the room from the inside, because when all the wires are out, oh my god, it looks like an IED. The two final components are small ones, that being the button, which goes through the back cover and into where the button is on the back panel, so you can press it to get out of the room. And then finally, the other small one is a servo adapter, which goes onto the end of the servo and allows it to turn the door mechanism. Now, hopefully, if I'm not lazy, I would have made an account on Printables or Thingiverse, so you can go and download these 3D models if you want to print them yourself. I'm hoping they work with multiple doors, but I'm not sure the internal mechanisms of different doors. I'm assuming quite a few of them are the same, but I'll show an image of what my internal mechanism looks like now. And if yours looks sort of around the same, maybe it will work, maybe it won't. If it doesn't, unfortunately, you're going to have to go through the trials and tribulations of measuring your own door, which can take a long period of time. Right, here we are in the Arduino IDE. The first thing you're going to do is get that Adafruit fingerprint library. In this version 2 of the Arduino IDE, you want to go to this little icon here, and you can just type in fingerprint, and it is the first one at the top there. So the Adafruit fingerprint sensor library. Mine's already installed because I got it previously. But if you need to install that and make sure it is on your device. Now, this library has all the things you need to clear the data inside the fingerprint reader. So the JM201 actually has the capacity to store about 128 fingerprints, I think it was. So if you want to clear the database, you can do that. You can enroll new fingerprints. You can get it to work and do outputs and stuff like that. So we'll get into all of that very soon. But first, we've got to do the wiring. I thought a hyperlapse below would be perfectly suitable to show you the wiring. You guys are pretty smart, you'd be able to do it. So basically just the same as the pinout, blue, yellow to 3.3, red to ground, the light should come on, and then the TX, which is white, to the TX on the board, and the RX black to the RX on the board. Now, if you're using a Mega, Uno, or Nano, or other type of board that uses a Mega chip, you can have a look on the Arduino website to see what type of chip they use. You need to put the RX, I think, let me check. Yep, the RX to pin 2 and the TX to pin number 3. This different wiring you can see is actually stated in the code right at the top here. It says if it is a Mega or other chip there listed, then use serial software because the board itself doesn't have a serial encoder on it. And then if not, use the serial which is on the board. Now, speaking of the code, how do you get to it? So you go to File, you go to Examples, and you scroll down to Examples from Custom Libraries because we downloaded the library from Adafruit's fingerprint sensor library. There it is, and if you want to just see it work, you press fingerprint. Now this here is the actual fingerprint code itself already. I'm just going to upload it as I talk. Now because I'm using the Arduino Uno R for Wi-Fi, it has serial on the board, so you do not need to put it, well I did not need to put it into digital pin 2 and 3. So it is straight into pin 0 and 1 or TX and RX. Now if I go to the serial monitor and make this a little bit bigger for you guys, you can see that no fingerprint is detected. That's because I'm not touching it. Now unfortunately you can't see it, but it is right there next to me. If I put my fingerprint on it, it will say image taken, and it says what fingerprint it is and with what confidence. Now if you just got your board and that's the first thing you did, or your fingerprint, sorry, and that's the first thing you did, nothing would happen. It would say image taken, no match. So if I do my middle finger, it will do that. Okay, that's because I've already enrolled a fingerprint. This is the fingerprint scanner I actually used on the door. So it has got my right pointer finger and my left pointer finger already in the onboard memory. Now I just looked back at the recording. It turns out you can't see me open the custom library software. Hopefully I do a little bit of a screenshot and then put it on the screen afterwards. I've now changed to the Enrol program, so I'm just going to upload that as I talk. Now this will allow you to enroll fingerprints onto the board. Now the JM201 can hold about 128 different fingerprints. If you want to get more in depth and more secure and look at what those fingerprints actually look like to the machine, you can go through that Diode magazine instructions, and he shows you a cool piece of software which allows you to see those images. Now this is uploaded. We can see that it will start doing something. Hopefully it did do something. Sorry, I just had to press reset to make it work. So as you can see down in the serial monitor, I'll make it a bit bigger for us again. You can see that it's asking me to ID what fingerprint I want, 1 to 127. So I think I said 120, so it's 127. I already have my left and right finger already enrolled. Using the software, the library, sorry, you can see you can delete the whole memory on the board, on the fingerprint sensor if you'd like. I'm going to keep those two because they're quite good images of my finger. Now I'm just going to say 3 because I've done 1 and 2 already. It's going to ask me to place my finger on the reader. All right, so I'm going to press my, let's do my ring finger on my left hand onto the scanner. Image taken, remove finger. It'll take a second and then you just got to do it again. Image taken, and then it is stored to the board. All right, now if you go back to the fingerprint library example from before, you'll see that it comes up like it did on mine, saying that it's hashtag number whatever number you put it as. So if I did my ring finger, it would say hashtag number 3, and then a level of confidence. That relates to how well it actually matches the image that the fingerprint sensor took the first time. And that can play a role in your code later on. Now I'm just going to go through all the components as a hyperlapse plays of me putting it all together. Now the first thing, as I already showed you, was the 11 kilogram servo. Hopefully it focuses. There we go. All right, 11 kilogram servo. It takes a lot of energy to open a door mechanism, who would have thought. On the end is that little 3D printed servo adapter, so it fits into the door mechanism. For this, we are going to, the microcontroller we're going to use is the Arduino Nano. So there it is there. Just keep in mind, if you are using a Nano as well, in relation to the code, this has no serial on board, so you have to use digital pin 2 and 3. The next thing is a little buzzer, just so it makes a nice little chime if you are allowed in, or it makes a big scary negative chime when you're not allowed in. The interesting thing about this buzzer I found is every time I've remade it, or we'll put it back together, which is 3 times now, it makes a different noise, even though the tone of the actual code, or the code, hasn't actually changed. I have no idea why. If you know, if you're a smart person, leave it in the comments. The next is a little button module. All right, it's just a little simple button, but it's on a nice module, so it can be screwed into the back plate. Then obviously the star of the show, which is currently still plugged in, the JM201. Mine have the little, you may have noticed in the previous video, have the little connectors. I just cut them off, some jumper wires, and then soldered them onto the original wires there. You also need just some jumper wires, okay? I use these power ones, black and red, and then some just 3 different colored ones for the servo, the button, and the buzzer. Finally, you'll need some different screws. Got really tiny ones. Hopefully the camera focuses. Quite hard to see. It's an M1 millimeter, M1 by 0.5 screw. You need 4 of those. You need M3 by 0.5 screw. They're not going to focus. You need about quite a fair few of those. Most of them go to the back cover, so if you don't need the back cover, you don't need quite as many. For the front plate, you need at least 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 and probably about 11 or so for the back. And then screwing it all together through the door is 2 M1 by 1.5 mil screws, but these are pointy. I'm not quite sure where I got them. They've got a nice end on them though. You can't see it, but whatever. It kind of has like a bit of a washer ending to it. Now all the wiring's done, let's make sure it is all working correctly. I have opened up the code I made previously, so I'm just going to go through it and show you some of the changes that I made. The first thing is obviously the integers there. The buzz pin, the buzzer is connected to pin 7, some delay times, so 100 milliseconds, 800 milliseconds, and then the button is connected to 6 and the servo is connected to 8. All right, made them pin modes, made the button a pull-up resistor. Okay, you guys should all know that if you're into this level of electronics by now. And then attached to servo, and then wrote it to 1 degree. I found it that if I wrote it to 1 degree, it was finding itself a little bit less to stay at 1 degree than 0 degrees, making it was making a bit of a movement noise, even though it wasn't moving at all. So further down, this is just setting up the fingerprint scanner. This is all in the fingerprint library under fingerprint, so I've just edited the actual fingerprint code itself. So here's some differences here. I'll just highlight them. So if the image is taken, it's going to make a tone, so you know it's actually done something. And then if it is not a match, it's going to play like a barrel. I swear to God, if I have to come back here and correct myself one more time, I'm going to fucking lose it. Right, what I was saying is that that code there goes bow. Obviously it does not go bow because if you read the code it says when no finger is present, meaning that it's not actively scanning someone's finger, it's going to make the tone. Obviously it does not do that, or else it go bow all the time. So I'm going to give a bow to me for that stupid comment. What this actually says here is while there's no fingerprint present on the scanner, it's just going to loop through that if and else statement there. So if there is no fingerprint present, it's going to serial print no finger detected, and it's going to look at that button pin so you can get out of the room. So if it's low, it's going to then actuate or turn that servo to 88 degrees so you can leave the room. Else it's just going to leave it at 1 degree where it already is. So bow. Hopefully I don't have to come back and correct myself again. If we scroll down and it is a success, right, it has found it, it's going to make a beeping type sound, or you hope it makes all different types of sounds at the moment, and then it is going to actually turn the servo to 88 degrees, which I found is enough to open the door but not strip the little servo adapter inside. And then if it doesn't, else it just does a bow. Now you may see at the top just here where it talks about fingerprint confidence, if fingerprint confidence. Alright, this is that confidence I was talking about. When you scan it and it gives you a confidence. If the confidence is not over 100, it is not going to let me in, even though it scanned my finger. I found that 100 is pretty good. It's pretty consistently you can get that unless you're really quick and it doesn't have time to get a good image of your finger. Right, now everything's connected and wired up. We can give it a little bit of a test now that we've uploaded the code. The first thing we're going to try is the button. So this button on the back here is used from the inside so you can get out. So we're just going to press that and we should see this move back and forth. Perfect. That's working as intended. Now the second thing is obviously the JM201. So let's see if that works. I'm going to put this finger on, my right hand pointer finger, which is registered. And we should see that move and we should hear a chime as well. And for some reason, it's not wanting to move back again. Which is strange because it is technically, it's right in the code right in front of us, I think. Yeah, servo right one. It could be a power thing. I'm not plugged into the normal USB that I'm usually plugged into. I'm usually plugged straight into the front of the PC here. But because I'm using a webcam today, it's plugged into a different USB. Usually that's not a problem. So I'm going to go from here. It's all working to the best of my knowledge. I'm going to go take it and I'm going to go put it on the door over there. So there'll be a little bit of another Neanderthal hyperlapse of me taking the door handle off for the third time in 2 days, and then me putting that on. Look, I may have lied. I think I'm going to record this bit because then there'd be no one talking. Sorry if the audio is a bit scuffed. I find the Samsung's a little bit iffy when it comes to audio, so if there's random music every now and then, that's why. So the first thing we're going to do is get these little prongs and the square to go through the door mechanism here. There will be a little bit of a video on screen just to show you what that looks like. I've already put it through the cable runs and there's a little bit of a lip on this, so you're able to run the cables and have it right up against the door nicely. So I like to run the JM201 wires over the top of the mechanism and then have the servo wire run underneath the mechanism just like that. Alright, then it's just a case of lining up the two holes either side and making sure that middle servo little doodadder actually goes into the square in the middle, and it can be quite hard sometimes as the square in the middle likes to not line up when everything's not nice and screwed together. So there you go. We're now through the door over here. You can see we've gone through, and the little, you can almost just see the little servo mechanism in there. So the next step is to actually get the back panel And this is one of the most fiddly bits of the whole arrangement, which is actually screwing the back panel on. Before we do that, oh, got wires falling off. Before we do that, I have lost my screws, but that's okay. Before we do that, we will put the wires through. You can see there's a little slot in there. We're going to put them through the little slot. The servo, I like to put through one side of the wires on the back, and then the JM201 wires I like to put through the other side. Now, if you're doing this, you can consider not putting through the green wire, as you could see in the pin out and throughout the video. You may have noticed we don't actually use the green wire from the JM201. It may be used for something. What that something is, I don't know. You're going to have to research that yourself and pull out your hair and become bald like me. Right, and there we go. The wires are through now. Oops, doors on a swing, and there goes your little bracket you're on. All right, wires are through. I am just going to find the missing screws and then screw it in, and I'll catch you up there. Once I had completed my Neanderthal task of implementing 5 million screws into something that needed 2, I powered it on using a battery pack. It can also be plugged straight into mains power if you have a 5 volt 1 amp USB outlet. This means you would not ever run out of battery and won't be able to get into your study. Now, if you do get caught with it not working outside the study, you just need to undo the screws on the front of the servo, and then the servo is actually strong enough. If you just turn it like a door handle, the door will just open by itself. And to finish off, here is some footage of it actually working. Now you can see my middle finger does not work, whereas my pointer finger does. That's because my middle finger is not registered, but my pointer finger is. If I wanted my middle finger to be registered, I'd need to do the Enrol code, which I showed you earlier, and make sure it is enrolled before it works on the fingerprint reader. Now, just before I end the video, I'd like to go over a few things that would help you make this project yourself. If you want to make it a little bit different, you think you can make it a bit different, a bit better, which is probably true. I'm a Neanderthal and I'm balding, so you're probably smarter and more attractive than me, so you win in both ways. Before it was a fingerprint reader door, I used an RFID scanner, so like a hotel you would scan and then you could enter. With that works well, okay? RFID, go for your life, it works really well. But I would not use anything less than probably a 10 kilo servo. All right, that one there's 11 kilos. It's on the verge of stalling and not working. So anything less than that is not going to work. And I have tried it with the RFID. I started off with 2 9-gram servos. Well, I started off with 1, which didn't work. I tried 2, 1 either side. Still didn't work. So try and stay away from low power servos if you can. They're readily available at JCar and stuff like that, the 11 kilo ones. Obviously, if you have a super crazy one like 35 kilos, just be careful. You don't want to wreck the internal mechanism of your door by over rotating it. And if you have one that I saw the other day, 55 kilos, I mean, that could lift my dog probably back that side, probably lift him off the ground. So that's definitely going to do some damage to the door if you over rotate it. And that little servo holder thing is just going to strip in the middle if you try. Finally, one change I would make is I wouldn't put so much bloody screws in the thing. I like the look of having heaps of hardware on it. Makes it look like really official. But obviously you could get away with probably even half the amount of screws, especially on the back where you saw the Neanderthal have to screw for about, oh, well, in my time, hyperlapse it was 12 seconds. Real time was about 12 minutes, and there's still 5 screws not in it. Don't tell anyone. But hey, that's something simple that you can do. You can just avoid the screw holes if you really want. One final thing with the coding, if you're going to try and do this yourself, the Adafruit library. There's 2 instances in it where it says the fingerprint is recognized and the confidence number. There's one in the middle, there's a bit, and then there's one right down the bottom. If you put your code for successful reading at the bottom, it doesn't work. You need to put it in the middle one for some reason. I don't know why. It might work. sometimes, but I don't know. I found if you put it in the middle one, it works well. And with that, I'd like to say a big thank you for watching. Bit of a longer video than the last one, and I've completely changed my lighting system. I don't use that anymore. I use this, which is way better. So if you want to go check that out, I mean, it's a shorter video, only 10 minutes, but it is literally just a switch with a stupid variable resistor in it. So that's so cool and so hard. So this one's a little bit more involved. In the future, I would like to try and make a robot arm. If over here in this, there's a robot arm behind my printer that I'm hiding, because I've failed so many times making it, but it would make a great video. So hopefully, if you guys are interested, maybe drop a comment saying you want to see that, and drop a like and make sure you subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.